Welcome everyone to the Retro Chat podcast, the channel where we go old school if you're watching on YouTube, but if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, or on the podcast feed, we're the audio feed where you go old school, not podcast. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're listening to us. Welcome to the heat wave. It's day 2 here in the UK, and temperatures are going insane. Currently over 40 degrees in some parts of the country. Here in Weymouth, we're currently on about 32. It's incredibly hot, but only for another day, and then hopefully it goes down. How are things where you are in your part of the country or part of the world? How are you doing in the heat wave? Hope things are good and you are keeping safe. All right, so if you want to get in contact with us on social media, you can do. All you need to do is hit us up. You can go to Facebook at Retro Chat Podcast. You can tweet us at Retro Chat Pod. You can do the old-fashioned email at retrochatpodcast@gmail.com, or you can visit the website, which is retrochat.co.uk. Or if you are listening on podcast, head to the YouTube channel, which is Retro Chat Podcast UK, where we got lots of content coming up quite regularly now, and things that may not be on the podcast audio feed, but we'll let you know more about that as and when it happens. So what is it that we're talking about this week? Well, let's take a look, because this is one of my favorites. We're going to be going back to 1989, and we're going to be talking about one of the most iconic movies to hit the big screen, and that is, of course, Batman, featuring Michael Keaton in the title role. Directed by Tim Burton, it was written by Sam Hamm and Warren Scarron, and produced by John Peters and Peter Gruber. It was literally a cast of all-stars, because it was headlined by Jack Nicholson, Michael Keaton, and Kim Basinger. It was released on June the 19th, 1989, with a UK release on August the 11th of that year, with a budget of $48 million. But it didn't take that. It actually took $411.6 million worldwide at the box office. But what exactly is Batman? Well, it's a superhero film based on the DC character of the same name. As we said, produced by John Peters and Peter Gruber, it's the first installment of the initial Batman movie series, which was then obviously followed by Returns, Forever, Batman and Robin, etc. The film was directed by Tim Burton and stars, as we said, Jack Nicholson, Michael Keaton, Kim Basinger, Pat Hingle, Billy D. Williams, Michael Gough, Jack Palance, to name just a few. And the film takes on the war between Batman and his arch enemy, the birth, really, of the Joker. Batman was a critically and financially successful, earning over $400 million in the box office. Critics and audiences particularly praised the performance of Nicholson and Keaton, Burton's direction, the production design, and the amazing thematic score by Danny Elfman. It was the 5th highest grossing film in history at the time of its release, and the film received several Saturn Award nominations and a Golden Globe for Nicholson's performance. It won the Academy Award for Best Art Direction, and it inspired what is arguably one of the greatest animated series of all time, which was Batman the Animated Series and the DC Animated Universe. It influenced Hollywood's modern marketing and development techniques of the superhero genre, and it was followed by 3 sequels, as we said. Batman Returns in 1992, Batman Forever in 1995 with Val Kilmer, Batman and Robin with George Clooney in 1997. So if you can't remember the plot of the film, well, let's have a look, shall we? Because we're going to be playing in a second some content that we're going to be looking at. Oh no, we're not playing that one. That's the wrong one. That's how we go. That's all good, isn't it? That didn't work. The plot of the film, this is good. This is what you call professional video. There we go. As Gotham City approaches its bicentennial, Mayor Borg orders District Attorney Harvey Dent, played by Billy D. Williams, and Commissioner Gordon to make the city safer by incarcerating Carl Grisham, who is the big mob boss. Meanwhile, reporter Alexander Knox and photojournalist Vicky Vale investigate sightings of what is a masked vigilante vigilante called Batman, who is targeting the city's criminals. Both attend a fundraiser, which is hosted, of course, by Bruce Wayne, who is, as we all know, secretly Batman, having chosen the path after witnessing a mugger murder his parents when he was a child. It was during this event that Wayne becomes infatuated with Vale, but interrupts their meeting to secretly pursue Gordon when he leaves on police business. That leads us to Axis Chemicals, where Grisham's second-in-command, Jack Napier, is sent to raid the chemical plant, retrieving incriminating evidence, though it's actually a cover to have Napier murdered because he slept with Grisham's mistress, Alicia Hunt. Corrupt Police Lieutenant Max Eckhard arranges the hit on Napier by conducting an unauthorized police operation. Batman arrives to catch Napier, who kills Eckhard, and during a scuffle, Napier topples off a catwalk into a vat of acidic chemicals. Although presumed dead, he survives with various disfigurements, including chalk white skin and emerald green hair and nails. He undergoes surgery to repair the damage, but ends up with the biggest grin you could ever imagine, and he became the Joker. Driven insane by his new appearance, he then kills Grissom at the estate, massacres the associates, and take over his operation. Joker wanted the press, and that's what we know. He wanted to be Gotham's centre of attention, and he was not overly amused when Batman kept getting the headlines. So what did he do? He terrorised Gotham with hygiene products laced with Smilex, a deadly chemical that causes victims to die laughing. The Joker soon becomes obsessed with Vicky Vale and lures her to the Gotham Museum of Art, where his henchman destroys the priceless paintings, and Batman arrives and rescues Vicky. Bruce visits Vale's apartment, intending to reveal his secret identity, only for the Joker to interrupt the meeting. And he asks Bruce, "Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?" Which Bruce recognises as the catchphrase used by the muggers who killed his parents. So therefore we can assume that it was Napier who killed Bruce and Martha Wayne Hart. The Joker shoots Bruce, but he survives thanks to a serving tray hidden underneath his t-shirt. Bruce escapes while the Joker is distracted, and at the Batcave, Bruce reminisces on his parents' murder, and he realises that Joker killed him. Vicky Vale is taken to the Batcave by Alfred, the butler, who had been coaxing the relationship between the pair to bring out Bruce's human side. After exposing the secret to Vicky, Bruce reveals he cannot focus on the relationship with the Joker on the loose and departs to destroy the Axis plant used to create Smilex. We then get an amazing battle scene where the fundraising event is taking place, the bicentennial is taking place, and that is where we get the big battle between the Batman and the Joker. After the battle, Gordon announces that the police have arrested all of the Joker's men and unveils the Bat Signal. Dent reads a note from Batman promising that he will defend Gotham should crime strike again, and asks them to use the Bat Signal to summon him in times of need. Alfred takes Vicky to Wayne Manor, explaining that Bruce will be a little late. She responds that she's not surprised as Batman looks at the signal's projection from a rooftop, standing watch over the city. I mean, it is such a brilliant storyline, and Tim Burton did such a cracking job in pulling the film together. But how did it all come about? Well, in the late 1970s, the popularity of Batman was beginning to wane. CBS, one of the American networks, was interested in producing a Batman in outer space film. No. Producers Benjamin Melnicker and Michael Uslan purchased the film rights of Batman from DC Comics on October the 3rd, 1979. And it was Uslan's wish to make the definitive, dark, serious version of Batman the way that the creators Bob Kane and Bill Finger had envisioned him originally back in 1939. A creature of the night, if you will, stalking criminals in the shadows. Richard Mulberm was approached to write a script with Guy Hamilton to direct, but the two turned down the offer. Uslan was unsuccessful in pitching Batman to various movie studios because they wanted the film to be similar to that 1960s really campy TV series that Adam West and Burt Ward were involved in. Of course, the cartoonish Batman and Robin. Columbia Pictures and UA also turned down the film. A disappointed Uslan wrote the script titled Return of the Batman to give the film industry a better idea of his concept and his vision for the film. He compared its dark tone to that of the 4-part comic book series The Dark Knight Returns, which his script predated by 6 years. In November of 1979, producers Peters and Goober did eventually join the project, and Melniker and Uslan became executive producers. The four felt it was best to pattern the film's development after that of Superman that came out in 1978, of course, starring Christopher Reeve. They pitched Batman to Universal Pictures, but the studio turned it down. Though no movie studios were yet involved, the project was publicly announced with a budget of $15 million in July of 1980 at the Comic Art Convention in New York. Warner Brothers, who were behind Superman and still riding off the success of that franchise, decided to also accept and produce the Batman project. Tom Mankiewicz completed a script titled The Batman in June of 1983, focusing on the origins of both Batman and Dick Grayson, with the Joker and Rupert Thorne as villains and Silver St. Cloud as a romantic interest. Mankiewicz took inspiration from the limited series Strange Apparitions, which was written by Steve Englehart. The comic book artist Marshall Rogers worked with Englehart on Strange Apparitions, was hired to do the concept art. The Batman was then announced in late 1983 for a mid-1985 release on a budget of $20 million. Actors originally wanted to portray Batman included William Holden for James Gordon, David Niven as Alfred Pennyworth, Peter O'Toole as the Penguin. Both Holden and Niven died before film production could begin, with Holden in 81 and Niven in 83, so that would actually never come to pass. A number of filmmakers were attached to the script, including Ivan Reitman and Joe Dante. Now, bear in mind, Ivan Reitman from Ghostbusters fame, and this means that he wanted to cast Bill Murray as Batman and Eddie Murphy as Robin. Yeah, okay. I can't see that working. Could you? I really can't, no. 9 rewrites were performed by 9 separate writers. Most of them were based on Strange Apparitions. However, it was Mankiewicz's script that was still being used to guide the project. Due to the work that they did together with the film Swamp Thing in 1982, Wes Craven were among the directors that was considered while looking for a director. In 1985, we saw a big movie success for a film called Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and because of that, Warner Brothers hired Tim Burton to direct Batman. Burton had then-girlfriend Judy Hickson write a new 30-page film treatment, feeling the previous script was campy. The success of The Dark Knight Returns and the graphic novel Batman: The Killing Joke rekindled the studio's interest in a film adaptation. Burton wasn't originally a comic book fan, but was impressed by the dark and serious tone found in both The Dark Knight and The Killing Joke. So we skip forward to the production of the film. It got green lit. There were some changes. The character of Silver St. Cloud was replaced with Vicky Vale, and Rupert Thorne with their own creation, Carl Grissom. They completed the script in October of 86, demoted Dick Grayson to a cameo rather than a supporting character, and ultimately he got dropped altogether. We talked about the casting a few moments ago and who would be looking to take on the roles, and parallel to the Superman casting, a who's who of Hollywood top stars were considered for the role of Batman, including Mel Gibson, Kevin Costner, Charlie Sheen, Tom Selleck, Bill Murray, Harrison Ford, Dennis Quaid. Burton was pressured by Warner Brothers to cast an obvious action movie star and approached the new, or soon-to-be new, 007, Pierce Brosnan, but he had no interest in playing a comic book character. Burton was originally interested in casting an unknown actor, William Dafoe, who was falsely reported to be considered for the Joker, but had actually been considered for Batman early in the development. John Peters suggested Michael Keaton, arguing he had the right, edgy, tormented quality after seeing his dramatic performance in Clean and Sober. And Burton, who had directed Keaton in Beetlejuice, agreed. The fans, however, didn't. 50,000 protest letters were sent to the offices of Warner Brothers. Kane, Ham and Uslam also questioned the casting. There was a negative response from the comic book people. They thought we were going to make it campy like the 1960s series because they thought of Michael Keaton from Mr. Mom and stuff like that. Keaton took the role seriously. He studied the works. He studied the works of The Dark Knight Returns, and he took that for inspiration. Tim Curry, David Bowie, John Lithgow, Ray Liotta, James Wood were all cast or considered for the role of the Joker. John Lithgow, during his audition, actually attempted to talk Burton out of casting him, a decision that he would regret. And he said before, "I didn't realise it was such a big deal." Tim Burton wanted to cast John Glover, but the studio insisted on using a movie star. Robin Williams lobbied hard for the part, but Jack Nicholson had been the studio's top choice since 1980. Peters approached Nicholson as far back as 1986 during the filming of The Witches of Eastwick. Unlike Keaton, he was a popular choice for the role. Nicholson had what was known as an off-the-clock agreement. His contract specified the number of hours he was entitled to have off each day. What a gig. From the time he left the set to the time he reported back for filming, as well as being off for the home games of the LA Lakers. Nicholson demanded that all of his scenes be shot in a 3-week block, but the schedule lapsed into 106 days. He reduced his standard $10 million fee to $6 million in exchange for a cut of the earnings, which led to remuneration in excess of $50 million. Biographer Mark Elliott reports that Nicholson may have received as much as $90 million, and he also demanded top promotion and top billing on promotional materials. Well, what we're going to do now is go back to some footage taken from the Batman Special Edition on the casting of Joker.
Hello, Vinny. It's your Uncle Bingo. Time to pay the check.
There was a conversation about who should play the Joker. And there were, as with Batman, there were names, Robin Williams, so many actors wanted to be the Joker that everyone had to be dealt with appropriately.
Jack Nicholson as the Joker, it's like you didn't have to be a casting director. Nobody even have to say anything. That was just everybody's first choice because he is the Joker. There's just no question about it. The fear is almost more like he's almost too perfect, but he's so great that he even transcends that. He even goes beyond your expectations just because he's so good.
We had known Jack Nicholson for a while, and the idea was, would Jack play a role like that? This is not the kind of film Jack Nicholson played in. This is the guy from The Last Detail and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. We're talking about a force of nature, an acting force of nature.
Jack was never one to just work with a director. There was no actor alive who respects a filmmaker more once he decides to do it. But he has to decide to do it. So Tim had to convince Jack that he was right.
And I remember we went up to Aspen, and Jack says, "Let's go riding." He's going to meet Tim Burton. And Tim says, "I don't ride." And I said to him, "You do today," And there's a picture of him on the horse with Jack. And Jack's a good rider, really good rider. And Tim Burton looks like he discovered God on that horse.
I was terrified, and it's like, I'm out with Peter Guber and Jack Nicholson on horseback, up in Aspen. I'm going, I didn't realize this was horseback riding was part of my job description, but it was it was a surreal moment.
He was not a happy camper, but he did it, and Jack committed to the project. I don't know because of the horse riding, but I think that they had a good bonding there, And that moved the project yet further ahead.
Once, somebody like him gets involved, it just raises the bar of everything else and just creates a buzz about it, an excitement that just permeates everything, really.
I was afraid because of my feel of the television series and the way movies tend to be done and talked about. I didn't want this to go through the normal, let's brighten it up for the kids, you know what I mean? I thought this was a very strong, in every way, transitional movie about the genre and really why they wanted me in there. In other words, on a superficial level at that moment, it gave it, this is not just another cartoon movie.
It changed the nature of the comic framework into a film, from a movie into a film with the inclusion of Jack Nicholson. There was something to be discovered there by the critics and by the media, because they would find it intriguing that Jack wanted to do that.
Part of the thinking in getting Nicholson was really similar going back to the Marlon Brando concept in the first Superman picture. You get such a great deal of respectability for the picture, for what you're trying to do, that not only does that help bring audiences in from young to old, but it also makes it very attractive to other major stars to want to become the next Batman villain, to follow in the footsteps of Jack Nicholson.
When Jack entered the movie, the balance of the movie started to shift a little bit. So you wanted to, play to your strengths. The Joker became a little bit more than he actually was in the earlier drafts, which is only smart. You make the changes. It's no different than a sports team making the adjustments at halftime or something like that.
To this day, I always took this performance more seriously than probably anybody in the world, because I looked at it that way. My early experience told me from working for an audience full of children, the more you scare them, the more they like it. The worse you are, the better. Because that was my response to the Joker. After all, this is a hateful occurrence, this man. And if you looked at it literally, every kid loves this guy, I believe. And I particularly love just the name, Joker. It's fantastic.
The studio felt the marquee of Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson changed the nature of the film. And he recognized that. And they negotiated a very strong deal, especially in the back end, because it was a short schedule. It turned out not to be a short schedule, though. And because of his presence, and because of his performance, and because of the weight of his existence, really, he made an incredible, indelible imprint on that genre and on that film, and made a lot of money, and deservedly so.
So there you have it. With the casting of Jack Nicholson, the movie went into overdrive. We suddenly started filming. With the majority of the filming being done in the Warner Brothers lot in Burbank, California, it then moved to Pinewood Studios in London, England. Wayne Manor was actually filmed at Knebworth House, the home of some of the biggest music concerts here in the UK. It really was a triumph, and the reception at the box office proved that even more. Batman grossed $2.2 million in late night previews on June the 22nd of 1989. It was on 1,215 screens and grossed $40.49 million in 2,194 theatres during opening weekend. This broke the opening weekend records held by Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which had a 4-day Memorial Day weekend gross of $37 million the previous month, and Ghostbusters 2, which had a $29.4 million 3-day weekend just the weekend prior. The film also set a record for a second weekend gross with $30 million, which is the second biggest 3-day weekend of all time, and became the fastest film to earn $100 million, reaching it in just 11 days, which was 10 days plus those late night previews. The film closed on December the 14th, 1989, with a final gross of $251.2 million in North America and $160.15 million internationally, totaling a whopping $411.35 million. It was the highest grossing film based on a DC comic book until The Dark Knight, which was released in 2008. The film's gross is the 66th highest ever in North American ranks, although Indiana and The Last Crusade made the most money worldwide in 1989. Batman was able to beat The Last Crusade in North America. It made a further $150 million in home video sales. Box Office Mojo estimates the film sold more than 60 million tickets in the US. Despite the film's box office over $400 million against a budget of no more than $48 million, Warner Brothers claimed it ended up losing $35.8 million and not likely to ever show a profit, which has been attributed to a case of Hollywood accounting. So, what was the media frenzy like on release?
To mark the occasion, Teresa Lucanis joins us live from the Americana Theaters in Southfield with a sneak peek at what many predict will be the film sensation of the summer. Teresa?
Dana, I think the marquee says it all for Bat fans. Finally, Batman the movie is here. This is the film they have been waiting for. And tonight's special showing at the Americana at 10 o'clock was a sellout.
Lieutenant, is there a 6-foot bat in Gotham City?
Nice outfit.
The Caped Crusader has inspired one of the hottest new looks in t-shirts these days, and Bat fans certainly dressed the part tonight as they lined up early to be among the first to see their heroes return.
2 o'clock the tube for Batman. Are all those people waiting now? You're kidding.
You see, Batman and a lot of these folks go way back.
But this is an old shirt. It's not one of the new ones. We got this years ago, so we're old Batman fans.
Batmania this summer. And everyone wants to see this movie.
Probably because we grew up with Batman and we're all familiar with it, and it's good to see a hero come back and, you know, and save the day.
I have given a name to my pain.
What are you?
I'm Batman.
But Michael Keaton as Batman shares star billing with Jack Nicholson, whose Joker is really wild.
You look fine.
I didn't ask.
He just reflects, he is the Joker. They had to have him in mind when they made the movie.
My life is really complex.
And Warner Brothers is banking on the fact that the movie will only whet the appetites of real Bataholics. They've come out with mugs and a whole catalog of Batman memorabilia. In fact, there is even a 1-800-BATMAN number in here to get your merchandise to you faster. And some of these people are not just Bat fans, they're Bat fanatics. Excuse me, what would ever possess you to do that to your hair?
I love Batman, you know. I would be Batman if they let me. I'd be Batman if I had a cape. I'd be Batman, yes, yes.
Yes, folks love Batman, and I'll tell you, already people are lining up to buy tickets to the special 12:20 showing of Batman this morning at the Americana. There are 8 showings daily, as you can see here at the Americana, so I guess Bat fans don't have to settle for the same Bat time or even the same Bat theater starting tomorrow. Reporting live from the Americana in Southfield, Teresa Lucanis, TV2 Eyewitness News.
So Batman craze was really there on opening night weekend. But what was the actual reaction like from those who went to see? Because Batman was criticised by some for being too dark, but nonetheless it did receive positive reviews from critics. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 71%, which is based on 77 reviews, with an average 6.6 out of 10. The site's critical consensus reads, an eerie, haunting spectacle, Batman succeeds as dark entertainment, even if Nicholson's Joker too often overshadows the title character. Metacritic gives an aggregated score of 69 out of 100 based on 21 critics, indicating generally favourable reviews. Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average of A on an A+ to F scale. Many observed that Burton was more interested in the Joker and the art and set production design than Batman or anything else in terms of characterization and screen time. Comic book fans reacted negatively over the Joker murdering both Thomas and Martha Wayne. In the comic book, Joe Chill is responsible. Sam Hamm, the writer, said it was Burton's idea to have the Joker murder Wayne's parents. He went on to say that the writer's strike was going on and Tim and the other writers do that. I also hold innocent to Alfred letting Vicky Vale into the Batcave. Fans were ticked off with that, and I agree. That would have been Alfred's last day of employment at Wayne Manor. The songs, which were performed by Prince, were criticised for being too out of place, while Burton has stated that actually he's no problem with the Prince songs. He was less enthusiastic with their use in the film. On the film itself, Burton remarked, "I like parts of it, but the whole movie is mainly boring to me. It's okay, but more of a cultural phenomenon than a great movie." Despite the initial negative reactions from comic fans prior to the release, Keaton's portrayal of Batman was praised. James Berardinelli called the film entertaining, with the highlight being production design, however concluded the best thing that can be said about Batman is that it led to Batman Returns, which was a far superior effort. Variety felt that Nicholson stole every scene, but still greeted the film with positive feedback. Roger Ebert, another critic, was highly impressed with the production design, but claimed Batman is a triumph of design over story and style over substance. A great looking movie with a plot you can't care much about. He also called the film a depressing experience, and on the syndicated TV series Siskel and Ebert, his reviewing partner Gene Siskel disagreed, describing the film as having a refreshingly adult approach with performances, direction and set design that draws you in to a psychological world. The Batman legacy continues following that movie. As we said, not only did we have animated series that followed the trajectory of the Batman film, we also had several other movies in the franchise. But the novelization continued because in March of 2016, artist Joe Quinonz revealed several art designs that he and Keith Leth had created to pitch a comic book continuation that was set in the 89 universe. The pitch, which was rejected, would have included the story of Billy D. Williams' Harvey Dent turning into Two-Face and the inclusion of characters such as Batgirl. It would have been set in the events following that of Batman Returns. In 2021, however, DC announced it would be releasing a comic book continuation of the 89 film. The series was written by Sam Hamm, illustrated by Joe Quinonz, and the comic synopsis that it would include the return of Selina Kyle of Catwoman and the introduction of a new Robin and the transformation of Williams into Harvey Dent into Two-Face. Batman has been released on numerous formats throughout the years, including VHS, Laserdisc, DVD and Blu-ray. In an unprecedented move at the time, something that now doesn't seem all of that weird because we're seeing 45 release day windows, it was made available to buy on VHS in the US on November the 16th, less than 6 months after theatrical release, at a retail price of $24.95, although most sold for less. It was released on DVD on March the 25th, 1997, as a double containing both the widescreen and the full screen versions. The 2005 Batman Motion Picture Anthology, 89 to 97, included 2-disc special edition of the DVD and all 3 of its sequels. So there you have it. Batman. The original 1989 movie, living its legacy to what was the beginning, really, of the superhero franchise. Superman did it in a comic book way. Batman turned it dark. For me, Batman stands the test of time. I have always loved this film right from the beginning when I first saw it back in the early 90s. And you see, I remember that my father brought me a VHS copy. It was an ex-rental copy of Batman that they were selling off in the video store. So my dad purchased it and came back, and I watched it and I was hooked. I was absolutely transfixed on this film. And my father and I used to watch it quite a lot. But the thing that always got me about it was, at the time, I wasn't the biggest comic book fan in the world, so I didn't really know much about Batman apart from what I'd seen on Saturday mornings on ITV or Channel 4 with the Adam West show. And I was instantly blown away by the performances of Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson is the psychotic, insane Joker. You believed it. You got in to the mind, which was quite scary, of Nicholson. And Michael Keaton's edgy portrayal of Batman, that scene where he's got the hoodlum at the beginning, and he goes, "What are you?" "I'm Batman." is, yeah, it's just moments of the film, it's scenes. The Batman will go down, or the original 1989 Batman, will go down in history as one of the greatest superhero movies of all time, and a real kickoff to the whole genre that we now take for granted with the likes of Marvel and Phase 1 through 4 and the DC Cinematic Universe. But what did you think of the film? Let me know on social media. Either drop me a message on Facebook at Retro Chat Podcast, or tweet me RetroChatPod using that hashtag #BackInTime. Email me retrochatpodcast@gmail.com, or leave a comment in this video if you're watching it on YouTube at Retro Chat Podcast UK. Next week, we're going to be going slightly different because we're going to be screaming Yo Joe as we're talking about the classic cartoon series G.I. Joe, which features, of course, Cobra Commander, Sergeant Slaughter. We're going to be talking about the change between G.I. Joe in the US and Action Force here in the UK. We're going to be talking about how the dubbing didn't really work on a lot of occasions. Plus, we'll be taking a recap at the G.I. Joe 1987 movie, animated movie that was released by Hasbro. So that is it for this week. Thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed our look back at the Batman from 1989. We'll be back with more Retro Chat and the Squared Circle in the next few days. Until then, I will see you very soon. Thanks for joining me. All the best. Take care. Bye-bye.